Thought, for most of us, feels like the very fabric of our existence. It moves inside us with such familiarity that we rarely pause to question its nature. We assume it is who we are, or at the very least, the fundamental tool through which we must interpret life. Yet if you lean back inwardly for a moment and observe, you'll notice something striking. Thought behaves far less like a solid structure and far more like a river we have mistaken for the ground beneath our feet. Thought is movement. It arises, flows, twists, and dissolves. It is never still for long. Even when you try to think of nothing, the mind finds its way back into motion, like a stream that curves around any obstacle placed in its path. This restlessness is not a flaw. It is simply the nature of thought. And in understanding this nature gently and clearly, something in us begins to loosen. Some ancient tension around our need to manage, control, or silence the mind. To see thought as a continuous stream is to recognize that it is not a single, coherent thing, but an unfolding process. Thoughts are not bricks. They do not sit in place unless we hold them there. They pass through. They shimmer briefly in the field of awareness before drifting outward into the invisible. The only reason they sometimes feel heavy or oppressive is because we cling to certain currents in the flow and resist others. But the flow itself is neutral, ever shifting, effortless, and self-perpetuating. If you sit quietly for a moment and simply watch, you may notice how thoughts seem to appear on their own. They rise unbidden, like bubbles from the floor of a deep lake. You do not command them into existence. They simply arise. They present themselves. They announce their presence. And if left unattended, they vanish. Some thoughts evaporate the moment you look at them. Others linger for a breath or two before drifting away. And others still, those fueled by emotion, memory, or fear, may circle back again and again, like leaves caught in a whirlpool. But even these recurring patterns are still part of the same moving stream. They are not separate entities, but eddies within the same river of mental activity. The mind is dynamic by nature. It generates content because that is what it is built to do. Its ceaseless movement is rooted in millions of years of evolution. Your ancestors, surviving by attentiveness to danger and opportunity, passed down a mind designed to stay in motion, to anticipate, remember, predict, imagine, and evaluate. In many ways, this unending stream of thought is a legacy of survival. And yet, while thought serves many practical functions, the vast majority of it is not necessary for immediate survival, or even for well-being. Much of it is noise, echoes of past experiences, rehearsals of future scenarios, emotional residues, half-formed stories, and reactive interpretations of the present moment. Most thoughts are not fresh insights or meaningful reflections, but habitual murmurs of a mind conditioned to stay busy. Imagine sitting beside a river. The water moves constantly, carrying with it twigs, leaves, sediments, reflections, distortions, flashes of sunlight, and shadowed ripples. You can watch it without needing to jump in. You can observe the constant motion, appreciate the patterns, even feel soothed by the flow. But the moment you lean forward and fall into the water, believing you need to catch each leaf, analyze every ripple, understand every swirl, you lose the perspective of the watcher. You become entangled in the current. This is what happens when we become lost in thought. We fall from the position of witness into the river of mental movement, tumbling through the content rather than observing its unfolding. And once inside, we often forget that we ever had a choice. We mistake the motion for our identity. We believe the thought stream is me. But in truth, the stream continues, whether or not you identify with it. It has been flowing since your earliest memories. It will continue as long as your mind is functioning. And yet, there is a dimension within you, a quietly aware space that is not made of thought at all. It does not rise and fall. It does not come and go. It simply is. This awareness is like the stillness of the riverbank. It is the ground that never moves, the presence that quietly perceives. When you begin to see thought as a flowing process rather than as a definition of who you are, you reclaim the possibility of resting on the bank. You begin to see the mind's activity with clarity, compassion, and even curiosity. You do not need to stop the flow. You simply need to recognize it for what it is. Movement, passing through awareness, not the essence of awareness itself. One of the gentle misunderstandings we carry is that thoughts must be controlled. We believe that if we could only think less, think more positively, or think more clearly, we would find peace. But trying to control thought is like trying to control